Hello everyone, you're welcome to my channel. Today I want to show you how to draft a shirt pattern. Yes, female shirt pattern or shirt dress pattern. So in my previous video I taught how to draft men or boys shirt pattern. So I'll be leaving the link to that video in the description box below. And if you're yet to subscribe to this channel, do well to hit on that subscribe button and also turn on the notification bell beside so you don't miss out on any of my videos. I will also show you how to transfer this on a fabric and stitch it, and that applies also to the boys and men's shirt. Okay, so do well to watch this video to the end so that you get details about the stitching and complete making of shirts. So let's get to work. So the shirts pattern is just like the way we draft our basic bodies, but with slight difference. Okay, so I'll be drafting on paper, then we'll be transferring to fabric. But when you have learned how to draft it, you can go ahead and draft directly from your fabric. And if you are drafting on fabric, that's if you're going straight on fabric, what you will do, you have to fold your fabric. Okay, you have to fold your fabric, and the length of fabric to fold is this: the biggest circumference, okay, plus 5 inches. If you're making a shirt top that would stop before the hip, the bust circumference should be the biggest. Okay, if you're making a shirt dress, definitely that will be longer than your hip point. The hip circumference is the biggest measurement, so that's hip circumference. Divide by 4 because you're placing your fabric on fold. By the time you have divided by 4, you add 5 inches to it. Okay, you add 5 inches. Let's assume by the time you have divided by 4 and you add 5 inches, what you have is 14 inches. You measure 14 inches on your fabric. Then you fold from that 14 inches. Okay, so that is how to place your fabric on fold to cut your shirt dress. So that 5 inches you're adding will be for the button hole, that's the button placket and the buttonhole placket, and also for your allowance. So now we are drafting on paper. I would not be folding the paper because it is paper. I would not fold it. So I'll go straight ahead and start drafting. So before you start, at this top part, you just mark out ½ inch. Okay, we mark ½ inch line. The reason for this ½ inch you're taking is for the shoulder joining allowance. Okay, so I'm just marking ½ inch, making a point at ½ inch so I can draw a straight line. So now I would connect the points. Okay, so we usually mark out 1 inch or ½ inch, but ½ inch is okay just for the shoulder joining. Okay, this is it. Now, having done this, the next thing to do, at the edge of your fabric or at the edge of the paper, you mark out 3 inches. So this 3 inches is for the button stand and the button hole. Okay, so just mark out 3 inches from this point. So I'll make a dot all the way down so that I can connect it to give me a straight line. So this is it, 3 inches. So when you want to cut on the fabric, you can just measure your full length, the full length of the dress, then cut it out. Okay, so that is how you just measure the full length of your dress with 1 inch allowance. So like you can see, I have gotten my full length. I had to join extra paper to get the desired length. So now I have marked my 3 inches. The next thing is to connect it with a straight line. Connect the points with straight line. So just carefully place your ruler at the points so that you can draw your straight line. So this is it. Now I've marked out my 3 inches. So all the measurement I'll be placing will be from this line. Okay. So the next thing now is to place our vertical measurements. Okay, we'll place our vertical measurement, and this vertical measurement we'll place will take away 1.5 inch. Okay, we'll take away 1.5 inches from the top. Okay, we'll take away 1.5 inches from the top. This 1.5 inches we're taking away from the top, we'll add it to the back panel. The reason is this: when you see a shirt, the front part of the shirt is a bit lower at the shoulder. Okay, you see the back part coming front. So that is why we're taking away this 1 inch to bring down the front part of the dress, so that the back part would, would come over it. So this 1.5 inches, you're taking it away, but we'll be adding it to the back. So from that 1.5, this is how you place your tape. Okay, minusing 1.5. Then you now insert your vertical measurements. Okay, so the first vertical measurement to insert is the bust point. So the measurements we need here are the bust point, the under bust, the waist, the hip, and the full length of the dress. So placing my tape from 1.5 at this line, the starting point, I would mark my bust point, which is 10 inches. So the bust point is 10 inches. The under bust is 14. The waist is 18. Okay, then the hip is 24. The hip point is 24. Then the full length of the dress is 42. Okay, that's a little bit after the nail. The full length is 42. Then I'll add 1 inch for hemming. Okay, when we are hemming the shirt, you don't need so much folding at the down. You don't need so much folding at that down part. So you just need like half-inch folding. So to get a half-inch folding, you just take 1 inch allowance, so that by the time you finish folding, you will get the half-inch. Okay, so I said the full length of the dress is 42, then 1 inch for hemming, that is 43. So these points I have placed now, I'll also replace them. I will just mark them this side slightly to help me connect my lines, help me draw a straight line. So don't forget, from 1.5, I would replace the points. Same for my bust, under bust, okay, the waist, the hip, and the full length, then the hem. So now I would draw my lines. So I've marked my points. So you can see this is the bust point, the under bust, waist, hip, the full length, and the hem. Okay, so the next thing now is to mark our shoulder. So the shoulder is 15 inches. So 15 divided by 2, that is 7.5. Okay, 7.5. But I'll mark at 8. That is, I'll add half inch because we'll be joining the sleeve. So I'll mark at 8 inches. That's 7.5 plus half inch, 8 inches. So this is my shoulder line. Now, from this shoulder point, we'll step down by 1 inch because of the shoulder slope. Okay, so I'll come down by 1 inch. So from this 1 inch, I'll connect it to these points. Okay, so just connect it to this side. So we are not cutting out the neckline for now. That will be cut with the back. So the next thing to do now is to place our armhole line. Okay, so the armhole, to get your armhole, you can use the formula bust circumference divide by 6 plus 1.5. Okay, so for me here it is 8 inches. Now when you're placing that the armhole line, don't forget you still have to take away that 1.5. okay, remember we took away 1.5 before placing our vertical measurements. So when you're placing the armhole length, you also have to take away that 1.5. So you place your tape at this point from 1.5 before you place the armhole length. Okay, so you can see I've placed the 1.5. So the armhole here is 8 inches. So I'll just mark at 8 inches. This is it. Then I would connect. So I have it here. Then I also extend this one. Here it is. So I will find the midpoint of this line, still minusing that 1.5. Okay, still minusing the 1.5. So since it is 8 inches, the midpoint is 4 inches. Okay, so from this 4 inches, you come in by ½ inch because the front armhole is deeper than the back armhole. So here we are using ½ inch. Okay, so we'll connect this point to this point here, like so. So have it there. Now to make our armhole curve, at this line, you know this is the chest line now. At this line, you place your bust circumference divided by 4. Okay, the bust circumference divided by 4. Here it is 9 inches. 9 inches, but I'll add ½ inch, okay, for ease at the armpit area. So what I'll be placing there is 9.5. So I'll mark it. This is 9.5. Okay, now I can connect my armhole. So using your curve or your free hand, just connect this point to these points, and we have it there. So this is our armhole. Okay, so having done this, the next thing is to place our horizontal measurements. So this measurement here is the bust measurement, so that covers up for this bust. So the under bust circumference is 32 inches. So 32 divided by 4, that is 8 inches. Now you are making a dress, that is a shirt. The shirt should not be tight, or else the button area will be opening, mostly at the bust area. It will be opening up. So you need extra inches for ease. Okay, you need to add extra inches for ease so that the dress will be a little bit loose, not tight. It can still be fitted even while it is a bit loose. So you need to add some allowances depending on what you want. If you want it to be very free, you can add 1 to 2 inches. But if you want it to still be a little bit fitting but not tight, you can add half. So by the time you add half here, remember the fabric is on fold. By the time you add ½ inch, it means you have added 1 inch at the front and 1 inch at the back. Okay, so here I'll be using ½ inch. Okay, I'll be adding ½ inch. So this dress will be a little bit loose and not tight. So what I will do is, or let me use 1 inch. Okay, just it will be a free shirt, a free shirt dress. So I'll add 1 inch. So the under bust, so that 1 inch. So let me go back to my bust measurement where I place the bust measurement and add the 1 inch. So this is it. Okay, so that you don't forget. Then you come to the under bust. The under bust circumference divided by 4 plus the 1 inch. Okay, so here the under bust is 9 inches plus the 1 inch, that is 10 inches. So I'll mark it. Now, the under bust is 8 inches. 8 plus 1 inch, that is 9. Please, let me not make the mistake. It's the bust measurement that is 9 inches. So the under bust is 8. Okay, ignore this mark. So, one other thing is this. When you're making a shirt, there is no need for that at the front. You can add that if you want, but that is not necessary, okay, because it's a free dress. But if you really want to have a dart there, what you would do is just to do the normal waist dart we usually do. That is marking your waist dart, then you also replace the dart allowance. So that is it. So this is my under bust measurement, under bust circumference plus 1 inch for ease. Okay, so I've marked it there. So that is 9 inches. Okay, yes, I have it here. Then I'll come to the waist also. I'll place the waist circumference, which is 33 divided by 4, 8.25. So plus the 1 inch allowance for ease, that will be 9.25. Okay, so this is it here. That is 9.25. This is it here. Okay, I have it there. So I'll also come to the hip. The hip circumference is 9.7 after dividing it. That is 9.75. Okay, plus the 1 inch, that will be 10.75. That is 10.75. So I'll place it. This is it. So this is the hip. So whatever measurement you have for the hip, that is what you place at the hem. Okay, so at the hem, that is the lower part, you place whatever measurement you use for your hip. So it is 10.75. so this is what I will also place at the hem. Okay, so this is it. So I've marked it. So the next thing now is to connect the points. So I'll connect the points. Okay, so from the bust I'll connect. Remember that this point is not part of it. This is the real point. From the bust, connect to the under bust. So from the under bust, you connect to the waist. Okay, then from the waist, connect to the hip. Now from the hip, you connect to the hem. So you can use your long ruler to connect this one. You have it there. Okay, so this is it. So this is our shirt dress pattern for the front. Now I'll be adding my sewing allowance. So I'll add, you can use 1 inch, you can use 1.5 inches. So, but you don't need so much allowance inside a shirt, and because you have already added ease, so you don't need so much allowance inside. So I'll be using 1 inch sewing allowance. Okay, I'll be using 1 inch, and this one is okay. So what I'll do, just to add the 1 inch from all the points, adding 1 inch for my sewing allowance. So the next thing now is to connect the points of the sewing allowance, just like we did before. Connect from one point to the other, like so. So then connect here also. So we have it here. Okay, and we are done. We are done. Very simple, you can see. Very, very simple. Okay, so there are 2 more things remaining: the shoulder allowance and the design you want at the hem. You can decide to leave it straight like this. You can decide to curve it, just give it a curvy shape at that part. So it depends on what you want, is your preference. Whatever you want, you can leave it straight, you can curve it. But before then, let's add our shoulder allowance, where we'll be joining. That's the allowance you need to join the front to the back, and that is 1/2 inch. Okay, that is why we took off this 1/2 inch from the top. So what you will do is this: you just mark your 1/2 inch from this point. You mark 1/2 inch upward. Okay, then from this point you already have 1/2 inch here. Okay, so what you do now is connect them. So you have 1/2 inch here already, then you have marked 1/2 inch from this point. So what you do, just connect the points. Okay, so just draw this one to this place, and this is it. So you can extend it up. So this is our shoulder allowance. This is what the allowance you need to join it with the back. Okay, so it's very necessary to do that. So like I was saying, at this down part, you can start to leave it straight, it will still be beautiful. Then you can start to give it a little curve at the down part. So to give your curve, what you will do is this. If you want the curvy one, there are different types of curves you can make at this lower part. Okay, so you can come up here by either 1 inch or 2 inches, depending on how curvy, how sharp you want it to be. There you can come up by 2 inches, 1 inch, or even 3 inches. So depending on how you want it. So I will use 2 inches. Okay, I'll mark 2 inches. I hope you can see this. I'll mark 2 inches at this edge. So this is the outer side. I hope you know. Then this is the front side. This line will extend to this part. Remember, this is also part of the shirt. This part is where the button and the button opening will be. Okay, so I'm extending the line here. So at this point, I have marked 2 inches upward. There are different curves, like I said. After coming up by 2 inches, 1 inch, or whatever you want, you can now make a curve from this point. Okay, you just make a curve. Let me use another chalk. So the reason I'm using chalk is because I've not decided which curve I would use. So I'm just trying to show you the different curves. So by the time you have stepped up by whatever length you want, 1 to 2 or to 3 inches, you just come from the center of this line. Okay, you just draw a curve to that point you have taken. So can you see this? Have you seen the shape we have there now? You can see how it is. Okay, you can see how it is. This is one type of curve. Then if you want it sharp at this point, that when you curve, you come this point, this front side will be a bit pointing. What you will do, you also come down here by either 1 inch or 1.5. So let me take 1 inch. So I'm using chalk, like I said, because I've not decided which curve I will use. So I'm just showing you. So by the time you come here by, I used 1 inch, right? Or 1.5. Okay, then you will still curve it. Here is 2 inches. You still curve it from there like this, and you come down here. Okay, and you come down. So I hope you can see the shape. You come down. So this is it. You can see this is another shape, depending on what you want. Like I said, okay, this one will come, the front part to be shape will be pointing somehow, while this side will go up one. So another design too is this. You just measure, that is, by the time you have stepped up here by 2 inches, you just find the midpoint of this line. Okay, so you find the midpoint, just fold your tape at the length, and you get the midpoint. Okay, so this is the midpoint. So by the time you have gotten the midpoint, you mark it. You just mark the midpoint. Then you have come up here by 2 inches, then here by 1.5. So from this point now, you come up. Okay, you just like come up to meet this point here. You come up to meet this point here. Then from there, you come down to also meet this point here. Okay, so whatever, this does not, there's no specific design that this is what you must use. It's a matter of choice. It's a matter of what you want. Okay, so that I'm using chalk, like I said, because I have not decided on which one to use. So I think I should go with this last one. So I'll use my marker to trace it out so that you see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going with this last one that is coming up a little bit like this to that midpoint, then coming down to meet my 1.5 inch. Okay, so you can see the shape now. This is the shape I have on my shirt, and you see the outcome. Okay, this is beautiful. So I'll go ahead and cut it. This is just it for the front panel. Everything is in place. Okay, from the beginning to the end. So whatever design, whatever style you want, you can just place here. You can just decide to go up, you can decide to give it whatever style you want. So the next thing is to cut it out. Okay, so I'll start cutting from here, from this allowance, that is top of the allowance. So this is our shirt dress. You can see our shirt dress, the front panel. This is the front panel of our shirt dress, and you can see this curve. You can see how beautiful it is. Okay, so now I'll show you how to cut the back. Okay, so now we'll be cutting the back. Okay, so we'll use the front to cut the back, but with slight difference. The back armhole will come up, that is, will come out by ½ inch. Remember, the front is deeper, so that's 1 inch. That ½ inch we cut out from the front, we'll have to replace it at the back. Then some other things. So let me just go straight into it. Then the back paper of the fabric will be longer than the front by 3.5 inches. Okay, so the reason for this 3.5 is this. Remember, we took off 1.5 from the front. Okay, so that 1.5, just imagine you didn't take it off from the front. By the time you place your front panel to the back, you know, the back would also have that 1.5. So now the back 1.5 plus that 1.5 we took off from the front, because that 1.5 we cut out from the front, we would be adding it to the back. So you can see now the back 1.5 plus the 1.5 we cut out from the front, that is what, 3 inches, right? Then this ½ inch joining allowance at the shoulder, the back would also have its own. So 3 inches plus this ½ inch, that is 3.5. So I hope this is clear. The back 1.5 plus the 1.5 we cut out from the front, which will be adding to the back, that is 3 inches, plus the ½ inch for joining the shoulder, that is 3.5. So just take it that way. Okay, so now you will place your fabric, the front panel, on your paper like this. But before you do that, you have to fold in these 3 inches. Remember, the back would not have it. This is for the front, the buttonhole and the button stand. Okay, so you have to fold it in before placing your front panel to the back panel. So just fold it in like so, following the line. So by the time you have folded it in, you see these ones, just make sure you fold it so that you don't cut it out when you're cutting the back. Okay, just fold this side in like this, and this other down part that is coming out, just make sure it is folded in like this. Okay, and this is it. Now you can place it on the back panel from the edge. Please make sure it is at the edge. You can hold this down with either pin or your paper tape. Okay, so by the time you have placed the front panel, what you will do now, you mark out that 3.5 inches from the top. Okay, so you just mark out 3.5 inches from here. So I go down a little bit so I can have my 3.5. So this is it. From here, from the starting point of the front panel, just mark 3.5 upward. So that is 3.5 there. Okay, then make sure this is, let me just pin it down here so that it doesn't move. Okay, make sure it is well arranged at the edge. So I'm pinning it down. and I have it there. So now I would also measure my 3.5 from this side. I would also measure my 3.5 from this side. You know, I've measured 3.5 here. I also measure 3.5 from this side. So place my tape like this from 3.5 and I'll mark it. Okay, so now I would draw a line. So just draw a line to connect them. So this is it. So by the time you have drawn this line now, what you do is to connect this one. So just connect it like so. Then we'll create the back armhole now. So remember at the front we came in by ½ inch. So that ½ inch we're bringing it out now because the back armhole is not as deep as the front armhole. So you just come up by that ½ inch, then you connect it to this side. Okay, so I'll use my curve to connect it. So just place your curve straight from the shoulder, making sure it's touching this one and this side. Okay, just connect from this point to this point, then down or up. So this is the back. Okay, and you bring it to this point also. So this is it. So you can just blend it or smoothen it out with your ruler. Okay, so this is the back armhole. So this is the back armhole. You can see it now. Good. So every other thing will now be the same. Having done this, every other thing will be cut out just the way the front down. We cut it out the way other parts of the front is, like that, before we then cut the neckline. So you can just hold it down with pin for it not to move, then you cut it out. Okay, so make sure it is well arranged, then you hold it down with your pin. So now everything is in place. The next thing to do is just to cut it out. Okay, so following the shape, make sure that this the side of the front panel is not outside, so you don't cut it out. Make sure it's inside, then you cut. So I have cut out the back, and you can see what we have here. Okay, so you can see it. So now we'll cut the neckline. So to cut the neckline, you have to fold this back to meet this ½ inch front allowance, that is front shoulder allowance. You fold the back to meet it like so. Okay, making sure that it is meeting at that line. So this is it. So you can hold it down with paper tape so that it won't move, because we want to cut the neckline. So just hold it down here like this. So now by the time you have folded, making sure that this side is equal, any excess you have here, you cut it out. Okay, so you see this excess, you just cut it out. You don't need it, so just cut it out. I'll have it there. Now you can use the standard neckline, which is 3 inches by 3 inches. That is the depth. The width is 3 inches and the depth 3 inches. Okay, or you can use this formula, the neck circumference divided by 6. Okay, the neck circumference divided by 6. For the width, you use the whatever figure you have, the way it is. Then for the depth, you add ½ inch. For example, if the neck circumference is 15 inches, divide by 6, that will be 2.5. So you use 2.5 for the width and you add half inch to it, that'll be 3. You use 3 inches for the depth, okay? But I'm going by the standard formula, which is using 3 inches for the width and 3 inches for the depth, okay? So what I'll do now is to measure 3 inches. I'll measure 3 inches here, but I'll add half inch, okay? I'll add half inch because that half inch will still be taken away. I'll show you why I'm adding half inch. So I'm marking 3.5 here. Mark 3.5. Then you also come down and mark 3.5. Okay? The normal, the standard is 3.3, but I'm adding half inch because I'll still take away the half inch in the process of cutting the neckline. So I measure 3.5 here, and here is also 3.5. So just make sure it is aligning. So this is it here, 3.5, 3.5 is here. Okay, so I'll just bring it down. Now, why I said I took 3.5 is because I will come to this point now and mark half inch. So you can see I'll be taking away the half inch back, and also mark half inch from this point. Okay, so just connect it like so and like so. So just mark, come out by half inch and come out by half inch. Okay, so that is it. Now you make a curve in form of C. You can use a French curve to do this, or you can just use freehand. From this point, from this top, you make a curve to meet this point and also to meet this point and come back. So you just go this way, you make like C. Okay, you also go this way and you come like this. Okay, so it should be in C form. This is for the neckline. This is for the neckline. So just in C form like this. So I'm just shading it out so that you can see it clearly. So you can see. But if you do not add that half inch, by the time you do it this way with that 3.5, the neck will be smaller than what you expect. So that's why I added half inch. But you can see I've come in by that half inch. So I still have my my 3 inches and 3 inches here. So you just connect, making a C shape. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Now we would cut. So before you cut, please bear in mind that you would raise the front before cutting. Don't make a mistake of placing your scissors and cutting both the back and front. You raise the front and you start cutting from the front. Okay, you just start cutting from the front like this until you get to this point. Then you can include the back and you just cut like this. So you just do it carefully and you go this way to the back. So you can see what I have here. Okay, so you can see I didn't cut the back. So you raise the front, you start cutting from the front until you get to this point. Then you can include the back and you cut out the back. Now I'll open it up. So you just remove the paper tape. Just carefully remove it. And you have it here. So you can see the back. See the back neckline is higher than the front. Okay, so just use this method and you will not go wrong. So that is it. You can see the back neckline and you can see the front neckline, and this is it. Okay, this is just it. So you can just trim this out a little bit. I don't have this sharp. This is just it. Now for the front, you also open it up. So if you are cutting on fabric, if you are cutting directly on fabric, you know by the time you finish cutting the front panel, you have to open it up at the center, just like the way we open up zipper allowance. You have to open it up at the center. Okay, so now at this front neckline, you also trim out this. Just, you don't want this part like this, so just trim it out to meet this. Just carefully trim it out. Okay, I'll have it there. And this is just it about your shirt pattern. This is just it about cutting your shirt pattern. Okay, so you can see how beautiful it is. So we'll go ahead to transfer this on our fabric. But before then, I will teach you how to also make the sleeve, the collar, and every other part of the shirt. So now we'll be cutting the yoke for the back, because we need the yoke. Okay, the essence of the yoke is to use it as facing. So you need the yoke at the back. So that is the next thing we would cut now. So now for the back yoke, okay, like I said, the yoke is just for, using it as facing to turn the shoulder, or the joining of the back and front shoulder, so you can have neat finishing on the shoulder side. And also as a design, like if you want to use a different fabric, you can just use the yoke as a design. So ordinarily the yoke is not compulsory. You can still make shirts without the back yoke. That all you need to do is, by the time you join the front shoulder and the back, you just weave it inside, so it will be neat. But here I just want to show you, just in case you want to do any one with yoke or without yoke. So if you want to make the one with yoke, what you will do, you get another piece of the fabric and you place the back panel on it. Now ordinarily the yoke should not be more than 6 inches. Okay, about 5 to 6 inches. So I'll be taking 6 inches and the folding allowance inclusive. Okay, both the joining and the folding at the down part of the yoke, 6 inches is okay. So what I'll do is this: I will just mark where I have 6 inches. So just place the fabric or the paper at the back of the back panel like this. Okay, you'll be tracing it out. So just mark where you have 6 inches at this armhole area. So just mark it, and this is where I have the 6 inches. Okay, so you just trace out every other thing. You can just cut it out. You can just cut it out. So here also you measure. You know that this side is a bit not the same with this side. So you can just use your ruler to trace it. So this is the 6 inches. Okay, this is it. You mark it. Make sure your paper is in place. You mark it. This is it. Now we want to also make sure you have it at this other side of the fabric. So you can use your ruler to trace it, and here it is. Okay, now we'll just trace out this back panel. You can use your marker to trace it out, or you just hold your paper in place and you cut it out. Okay, so this is making sure it is in place. So I have it here. Now you can connect this one. And you cut it out. So remember that your fabric will be on fold when you're cutting. Okay, the back panel, you have to fold your fabric to cut it also. So just straighten this line. So to make it actually equal, you can just cut it out while it is under the back panel. So this is the yoke for the back. So before cutting the yoke, you also have to place your fabric on fold. Okay, so I'm just showing you. Now if you want to make shirts that have pleats at the back, okay, you want to make shirts that have pleats at the back, you have to cut out the yoke of the back. So I will show you that. So this one will not be having pleats, so it will just go straight. There's no need of cutting the back. this will just lie straight on it. So this is the yoke. So let me write it. This is the back yoke. So like I was saying, if you want to make a shirt that has pleats at the back, you know, you see shirts like that, what you will do is this: you have to cut out this part from the main shirt. You cut it out. By the time you cut it out, and by when you're drafting the back, you have to add the allowance for the pleats, just like zipper allowance. Okay, so you make sure you add that allowance, about 2 to 3 inches allowance at the back, before you place your front panel to cut, so that by the time you have finished drafting the back, you cut out this part that the yoke will be, and you pleat the center back to whatever pleat you want, to whatever fold you want. You pleat it to whatever you want. So by the time you have done that, the back panel will reduce back to its normal size. Okay, then you now attach the yoke back to it. So when you're cutting out the yoke again, you have to add 1/2 inch at this side of the yoke. So by the time you join it back to the main bodies of the back panel, everything would align. So that is just it. Okay, so for now we are making the one without pleats. Okay, so I'm making sure that this back yoke is well aligned. So this is just it. Okay, so in our next lesson, I'll be transferring this to the fabric. So if you're yet to subscribe to this channel, do well to hit on that subscribe button below, and also turn on the notification bell so that I don't miss out on the next video. So we'll be making the complete shirt. See you then. Bye.